I'm Debbie Balhosky for FinextraTV, bringing you part of our Predict 2025 US series here in our virtual studio. And I'm joined by Claire Verville of M&T Bank and Sarah Biller of Mass Fintech Hub. And you guessed it, we're talking about collaboration between banks and fintechs. Welcome to you both.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Great to be speaking with the Finextra audience and to see you again, Sarah.
Claire, how wonderful to join you. And Debbie, thanks for having us.
So already we've got this great collaborative feel between banks and fintechs. Can I ask you, first of all, I think I'll come to you first, if I may, Sarah. Historically, perhaps banks used to view fintechs as competition. Then we moved into collaboration. How would you define that relationship now between banks and fintechs?
Yeah. Debbie, you're not inaccurate. I think when we went into this cycle of innovation about 15 years ago is how we look at it. There was a competitive lens that was overlaid both by the startups and by the banks themselves. I think as we've evolved through the last decade, what you've seen is a natural partnership. The entrepreneurs were well suited to think about new ways to service customers, new digital applications, but increasingly that ability to actually build technology for the future in forms of the back and middle office, around compliance, around infrastructure, and increasingly around cybersecurity needs, most certainly has evolved that relationship from competitor to strategic partner, now I think back into the more critical functions that the banks need. I know, Claire, you probably have a good perspective there too on how things are working at M&T.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you really summed it up well about feeling maybe 10 or 15 years ago that fintechs were, really exclusively disruptors to the traditional banking ecosystem, and that, banks as we know it would cease to exist. And I don't think that has really materialized. I think the relationship has moved from one of competition to, Debbie, to use your word, highly collaborative. I think banks recognize what fintech has to offer in terms of, agility, really innovative approaches, cutting edge technology. But equally, traditional banks have a very strong proficiency in a very complex industry that fintechs can benefit from in terms of regulatory expertise, experience with scale, protection of customer data, and really that trust in the system. And so I think by working together, you can really create that, 2 + 2 = 5 equation. And, in my view, I think the banks that can really master an effective program for engaging with fintech and engaging with innovation are going to be the ones that really rise to the top and reap the most benefits, for themselves and for their customers who want to see new experiences.
And if I may stay with you, please, Claire, how
Sure.
would you say that banks can go about finding their ideal innovative partner in the shape of a fintech? How would you answer that?
Yeah. Great question. I think the first step to that really starts inside the bank, which is understanding your own strategic ambitions as an organization, how innovation fits into that, and what your roadmap really looks like. I think absent that, it's very challenging to engage with fintech or any partner. And so that's really the key first step. At M&T, we engage frequently in open dialogues with fintechs to understand their capabilities, how their strategic positioning fits with our innovation roadmap. We participate in industry events, in industry networks like Mass Fintech Hub to really learn about the direction of travel and sort of where the puck is going in the industry and where we might see fintechs whose vision really aligns with ours. And then I think, key to making the most out of a fintech relationship is rapid experimentation. So how can you really learn quickly from fintechs and how they might fit in your environment? I think that is really, really important for any bank seeking to engage with fintech, but it's a real challenge as well for banks. We are stewards of customers' data and financial security. We take that responsibility really, really, really seriously. And so balancing risk with experimentation is really important. It's a tough balance to get right. We have a lot of support from regulators and, from inside the bank. But I think that's really, really important as, banks are starting to work more with fintechs and really to see the benefits of those partnerships effectively. And I think it's important for fintechs to understand and take seriously as well if they're seeking to work with large banks like M&T.
And Sarah, your point of view from the fintech view and perspective.
Yeah, Debbie, thank you. I do think Claire is spot on. There, you didn't use these words, Claire, but I'll use them. We've seen a maturation in the bank tech and strategy that the startups are deploying. They really have sought to better understand the compliance requirements, the risk profile of the bank and what it's operating under. I think, Claire, what we've seen too is a desire for the fintechs to better provide solutions that are interoperable. Initially, that was a barrier, right, Claire, to kind of that partnership. If you had two technology stacks that didn't easily speak to one another, we were challenged in any sort of adoption framework. But I think what we're seeing now, Debbie, is that evolution that is natural, more experience coming into the fintech startup world. I encounter entrepreneurs every day that I worked with a decade and a half ago. And, and so that's exciting to us is that we see, and it's almost just in time, as the world's banking economy digitizes, how can we make sure that our most important bank partners keep up with this technology arms race and, Claire, meet your needs for compliance?
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
And I'm going to stay with you, Sarah. And again, this is the theme of collaboration because you're both agreeing wholeheartedly. So let's look now to the future. Because Sarah, you mentioned there, you've been working with clients for well over 10 years and you're watching them grow and you're watching their banks grow. So the question I'm going to pose to both of you, if I may, and to start with you first, Sarah, is how do you see the future of banking?
I actually, maybe this is where Claire and I might actually diverge a little, Debbie, and so I'm interested if Claire pushes back. But, the vision that we see or how we envision the entrepreneur community partnering with our banking sector is one, not just of good partners and good stewards of innovation, but also as customers of the bank. So as fintechs themselves evolve their capability to be partners as deposit gatherers, introduce new lending opportunities that expand the reach of our banking partners, both in terms into new customer bases as well as a cost-effective way. I think the future looks very strong from that idea of both fulfilling the operating needs, but also as strategic partners here. And Claire, that strategy that you have at M&T and other banks do to grow beyond your borders, to look at the Web3 environment, much like you might look at a branch, it's just a digital branch. And so I see the future as very bright for our partnership, and a much needed partnership, I might add.
Mm-hmm. Claire, over to you.
Absolutely. It's very interesting. We spend a lot of time in M&T sort of thinking about the future and where fintech fits into that. I think you're right, Sarah. The industry as a whole is really looking at fintechs as potential strategic growth partners. I think we can also learn a lot from other industries about what customers want to see from their financial experience, which is one of the most important, relationships and experiences you really have. And so I think for M&T, we really see fintech as a key enabler of our strategic goals to grow as a bank, to create experiences that are seamless and convenient and that customers frankly are used to seeing from other industries. And I think, if you look at some of the trends in embedded banking, we can see financial services being more integrated into your everyday. And so really a kind of one-stop shop integrated platform that allows folks to manage everything that sits around your financial life as well, which presents some really exciting opportunities, I think, for folks in the banking industry to think more creatively about how you can support your customers beyond the traditional product set.
And Claire, could you see this future in banking without fintech collaboration?
I really don't think so. I think the fintech collaboration and even the early years of fintech competition has been really productive for the industry as a whole. I think competition and innovation drives us all to really be better and up our game, whether you're at a fintech or a traditional bank. And, banking is a consolidating industry. So it's really not just fintech we have to contend with. Every bank is thinking about what side of the acquisition equation they want to or are likely to be on. And I think technology and your ability to engage with fintech and have a really effective partnership strategy is going to be a real key differentiator to how you bring products and experiences to market and how you serve your customers. Like I said, there's a lot of complexity to that, but I think it's critically important.
No, that's great, Claire. And you know what, Sarah, as we come to a close, that reminds me a little bit of a quote I sort of thought about while you were speaking earlier, where you said that this relationship moved from competition into collaboration. And I think you said essential partnership. Was that right?
I did. Yeah.
Well, on that note, may I say thank you to you both for joining us here in the virtual studio and also just throwing those few predictions about and talking about collaboration. Thank you both.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.